30 years ago, it was all quaint and charming, and the girls were all playing the long game. They wanted you to marry them and take them abroad. So they would wash your socks before they left in the morning. Now it's all very hard and mercenary and uncharming and unquaint and very unappealing. And the amount of tattoos, my God, it's like screwing a comic book.
What's the story out there, folks? Pete here from Thairish Times. I hope you are doing well out there. So today we're interviewing Steve Rosse. He's back again. I've interviewed Steve a number of times on the channel now, and I think Steve would be in agreement. He'd probably think it's fair to describe him as a loud, opinionated American living in Thailand. And today I'm interviewing Steve about a book he wrote called Expat Days. He wrote the book between 1989 and 1997, and the book is a collection of stories and events from that period of Steve's life. We're going to get into some of these stories in this book today. We're going to start the interview off with, I did read another book called Leaving Thailand that Steve wrote, and in that book he slated his ex-wife. But in Expat Days, he writes about men in glowing terms. So what happened there? Why is there such a contrast between the two books? We're going to ask Steve. He's going to get into a number of different stories as well. He's going to talk about leaving Thailand in 1997. And when he left Thailand in 1997, he was broke. He had 2 young kids and a wife, and he went back to the United States, and he really struggled. And I didn't actually know that part of Steve's life, so we're going to get into that part of his life today. He's going to tell a story from the book called A Sailor Takes a Wife. Funny, interesting. He's going to talk about his life in Thailand as well. He said his pension is in jeopardy. What happens if the US government cuts his pension? Will he go back to America? What's he going to do? He's going to talk about his sex life, believe it or not. Yes, Steve's going to spend about 10 minutes on his sex life. And then he's going to talk about something that I've wondered, and I've often wondered this. Steve is 68, his mother is 92. There is longevity in the family. I know Steve says he's going to die relatively soon of a heart attack. He says it's going to be very painful but very quick. But what if he doesn't? What if he lives to be 80 and 90 and, he says he always wants to be single, but do you really want to be single in your late 80s in Thailand? You don't often hear stories like that. These guys and women, or men and women, they're not on YouTube. So I wouldn't like to be single at like late 80s, early 90s in Thailand. I think you're quite vulnerable at that age. But let's see what Steve says. Then Steve's going to he's going to give his opinions on the Thailand vlogging niche. Of course he is. And then he's going to give us an update on Steve's fist fight. He was in a fist fight 6 months ago with another American on Turtle Beach. He's going to give us an update. And this video is very long. It's about 90 minutes long. So he's going to cover lots of other topics that I haven't mentioned in the intro. Let's get straight into the video. Links for this book down below in the description and pinned comment as well. Cheers, folks, and leave me a comment to let me know what you thought about the video. Nice one. It's a pleasure. Let's look. Every time we do an interview, we blow the roof off the place. People love it. They love you, Steve. They love they love you the way you talk.
Oh, I don't know that they love me. I think there are just as many haters, but the haters are your biggest fans. The haters come back week after week after week. A guy on Tim's channel sent me 40 baht because I told him he was really slagging me off in the comments. And I said, yeah, but you're going to be here next week and watch the show again. He said, no, I'm not. I said, I'll bet you $1 you're back here next week. And 2 weeks later, I got 40 baht in the mail. He came back.
He actually sent you the money.
Yes, he did. It was 34 to the dollar at that time. So he sent me 220s. He sent me 40 baht. Yeah, those guys, they come back and come back and come back because we all like getting riled up, and I rile people up for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, it's entertainment though as well, isn't it? You're an entertaining guy, Steve.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, let's get straight into this book, okay? Because you sent me this book a couple of weeks ago, Expat Days. I've read the book. I enjoyed the book. Interesting stories. We're going to get into some of those stories today. But first, we're going to set the scene, set the background. So you wrote these stories. They were written for Phuket Magazine and The Nation between 1989 and 1997. And then you describe some of these events as the most important of your life. That was in 2006. You've had obviously a lot more important events or more important events since then. But give everyone the background of how you ended up in Phuket in 1989.
All right. First, go ahead and put the book down because it's the same color as your green
Oh
screen
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay.
doing
I
some
like the
weird
way you
shit.
tell me what to do, Steve. I like that. Put that book down there. I'm taking control of this interview already.
All right. All right. Sure. I can take instructions. How did I first arrive on Phuket? So as you may have read in leaving Thailand, I used to work in the film industry as a prop man. I found on a set a book by an author named Jack Reynolds called A Woman of Bangkok. And I read that book. And as soon as the movie wrapped, I got on a plane and took a 3-month holiday and spent those 3 months on Phuket. I came back to New York in the dead of winter, dressed in beach clothes. And on the subway between JFK Airport and my apartment, I decided I was going to go back and live forever on Phuket, that I no longer wanted an exciting career in the movie industry. I wanted to teach English for $4 an hour at the Phuket Yacht Club. And for all of the reasons that a young introverted man might have to move to Thailand, those were all my reasons. And gave up a city I love, gave up a rent controlled apartment on Broadway, gave up a lot, sold my winter clothes because I thought I was never coming back. And I moved to Phuket. And my life has been consumed by the Kingdom of Thailand ever since then.
Did you just describe yourself as introverted?
Yeah.
Why?
Huh. No, I am. I overcompensate with bravado and bluster. But at my core, I'm an only child of a single parent who was in 7 schools by the 7th grade. I was always the new kid in school. And I have a lot of socialization problems because of that. I find it very difficult to make lasting adult relationships with people, particularly with women. And I don't trust people at all. And I don't trust relationships at all. So I prefer to stay very much on the surface. I prefer not to get real close to people or things or places. Uh, so yeah, I would call myself an introvert with a big loud mouth.
Well, now that you mention relationships, I think this is a good segue into this question. So, I've read both your books, Leaving Thailand and Expat Days, and
2 of the 5.
yeah, we've got Thai
Yeah,
vignettes. I still haven't read that one. There's Bangkok Buckaroo or something, isn't that one? Bangkok?
Buckaroo,
Yeah, yeah, I haven't
Buckaroo,
read that one. Anyway, so
and a book called "She Kept the Bar Between Them." Since we're mentioning my books,
yeah, you need to send me that
all
one actually.
available on Amazon for Kindle.
Don't worry, Steve. We'll give you the plug. Hold on, hold your horses here. Okay, so right, so I read Leaving Thailand first. That was the first book I ever read, and I interviewed you. I think that's over 3 years ago now. December 2021 it was.
Yeah,
And I was when I read that book, I was like, I mean, you really slated your ex-wife, your Thai ex-wife in that book. I mean, I asked you questions about it in the interview. I'll leave that link to that video down below if anyone wants to see it. And when I was started reading this book, I was kind of shocked. I was like, I mean, you do write about Mem in glowing terms. I'm just going to read a part
yeah,
from page 31. On the table in front of us is a feast of lobster, shrimp, crab, rice, papaya salad, fresh fruit, and beer. Enough food to feed 4 gluttons and their dogs. Mem is in a silk shirt and a new haircut that she's very proud of, and flashing her Christmas present from me, gold earrings. Think of the most beautiful woman you've ever seen in Asia. Now think of that woman's younger, prettier sister, and that's what Mem looks like. Wow.
yeah. Well, she was always very cute. She was a good-looking woman. Uh, yeah, but these stories, as you say, were written for publications under the guidance of various editors. And at that time, every Farang writer in Thailand, and there were very few outlets in those days, the Post and the Nation being the big two, all of the columnists who were writing first person, this is my life essays were kind of the Bernard Trink variety. They were mongers, they were sexpats, they wrote about drinking beer and taking girls out of bars and bar fines and things like that. And they wrote about that kind of character in glowing terms. They were heroes. The guys who had given up careers and families back home and even robbed the poor box in the church to live in Thailand were heroes somehow. And that had been the model for, God, 30, 40 years. In the 90s, society started to change how it looked at that kind of farang in Thailand and expand the definition of farang kikai to include the sexpats. And my editor said, gosh, Steve, you're great when you write about your wife and your kids and your dog and your maid. Write about that. Write about your home life, your family life. Show the reader that a white man can live in Thailand like Thai people and have a normal family life and a job and pay his taxes and complain about paying his taxes and things like that. Since I am not teetotal, but I don't drink for recreation, I don't drink alcohol for recreation, it was fairly easy for me to do that. And as I was an only child of a single parent, I had this idealized vision of what family life was. I had never really experienced that traditional two parents who love each other and the kids growing up straight and tall and well fed and everything. Well, I was always well fed. But I mean, that sort of TV variety of family life, I thought that was real. And I was always trying in my own life with Mem to meet that standard and never could. And I always thought it was because me. I thought I'm doing something wrong. I'm a bad guy. I'm not making enough money. I'm not showing her enough attention. And it didn't occur to me that maybe my idea of what family life could be was a little idealized, a little Pollyanna. And the editor said, keep it light and keep it loving and keep it friendly. And so when I wrote about Mem, I wrote in glowing terms. When I wrote about our life, I tended to write in glowing terms. We left in 97. I was writing professionally or getting paid to write about myself or my experience in Thailand since 89. And toward the end of it, in 96 and early 97, I started to be more honest about it because it was just becoming too dark and too oppressive and too horrible. And then we left. In 97, the Asian economic bubble burst. Chavalit Yong Chayut floated the Thai baht. It went from 25 baht to the dollar to 50 baht to the dollar. Everything I owned was cut in half in value overnight. Everything everybody in this kingdom owned was on, I think, July 4th, 97, was cut in half overnight. And I chose that very moment to get fired from my job at a hotel in Phuket. So writing was half my income. The hotel was the other half. So I lost half my income and half the value of any real property I owned immediately, overnight, with no warning. And my ex-wife, out of the blue, said, well, the kids are getting close to school age. You've always said you want to educate them in the States. Should we go now? And I said, yeah, let's get out of here. I hadn't been home in 5 years and I kind of missed it. And I was getting fed up with the traffic on Phuket and, doing a 9-to-5 job and wearing lace-up shoes and long pants. My office was 50 paces from the high tide mark on Kata Beach. I never saw the water. I'd come to work, sit in my office, which had no windows, do my job, go home and fight my wife. And that was it. I was 50 meters from the beach every day, all day, and eating for free in one of the best restaurants on the island and getting my name in the newspapers all the time. But I was kind of fed up. And like I said, I don't trust people, places, or things. And I was kind of starting the gloss of that kind of starry-eyed innocence about, this place is wonderful. uh, had worn off by that point.
Yeah, it
And
does wear off. It does wear off.
it does. And what I've discovered now after 3 years is it can wear off and you can have a more realistic picture of Thailand and still want to live here and still love the place, but not when you were married to my ex-wife and not when you had two infant children and no steady income. You know, writing freelance is piecemeal, and every month you're going to make a different amount of money. The money from the hotel had been the steady income that covered the car payment, the rent, the maid, all of the, and then, you know, the money from the writing was for, you know, enjoyment and things like that. And the steady income went away just in the space of half an hour, literally. And I was kind of scared. And I thought, you know what? The University of Iowa has the best writing program in the United States, the best graduate writing program, bar none, in the United States. It's in my hometown, and my mother has left me a 5-bedroom house across the street from an elementary school in Iowa City. Go home, go to grad school, become a real writer. It seemed like a good idea at the time. And we went home. And it turns out that nobody at the University of Iowa had any respect for a clip book full of clippings from in-flight magazines on the Pacific Rim. And they just didn't give a shit. And I didn't get into the writer's workshop. I got into a graduate program in nonfiction writing, but it wasn't the famous writer's workshop. And I failed miserably. I was 40 years old in classrooms full of 20-year-olds. And I was writing stories about the bars in Thailand. You know how that went over on an American university campus in 1998?
Oh
Yeah, middle-aged white guy with a much younger wife who's writing about the bar scene in Thailand. Yeah, that didn't, you know, everybody else was writing, Daddy Never Loved Me, and That's Why I'm a Lesbian. And Steve was writing about Noi at the Tilak bar. So, yeah, they did not like my writing, and often would simply refuse to workshop my stories, which is the biggest insult one writing student can throw at another. And I left after 2 years without a degree and spent the next 20 years sitting in a cubicle, transcribing medical dictation and editing medical records in a cubicle in a windowless room in the basement of a variety of hospitals.
How
So,
was that, Steve? I mean, you
that's
gave up
horrible.
on the dream.
Yeah, sure did. Now, I gave up on everything, dude. Everything.
I mean, you finished half the degree, 2 years of a 4-year degree.
No, it was a 2-year degree.
Oh, you
But I was
finished
the
it.
only
Okay.
I was the only student in my year who had to work a 40-hour job as well as go to graduate school. And because we arrived in Iowa, Mem couldn't get a green card for about 3 years. She couldn't work for 3 years. The kids were infants, and we arrived in Iowa with nothing but 8 suitcases full of beachwear. And our first night in Iowa, we dumped all these suitcases on the master bedroom floor, and the 4 of us slept together on a pile of clothing. We had nothing. I had no money, no savings, no property, no investments, zero. I was 40 years old. I had zero. I had nothing but a wife who hated my guts and 2 children. And so I was working 60 hours a week. I was doing as much overtime as I could and trying to fit graduate school into that and writing. You can't write in class. You can't write at work. You're supposed to come home and put the kids to bed and then sit down in the basement and write for an hour. I couldn't do it. The writing gland just shut down. And I was just, the whole thing just kicked me in the nuts. I was crushed. And I ended up sort of just burying myself in that cubicle. It felt safe in that cubicle. It was horrible. It was ego destroying. It was imagination crushing, but it was safe. I did the job very well. I was very, very good at the job. I got praise from my superiors. Doctors brought me pastries to my cubicle because I saved them from lawsuits. In that terrible clerical entry-level job, I was really, really valued by my colleagues. And there was nothing else. There was no other work for a guy who had nothing on his resume but a 20-year-old BA in theater arts in Iowa. There's no theater, and well, there's very little professional theater in Iowa. So there was nothing else for me. There was nobody else. I did get a job writing advertising, and I did that for 3 years. And I was really good at that. I won awards for my billboards. But I had a meltdown during my divorce. I had a meltdown at work. I made $1 million client cry in a meeting because of my big mouth. And they fired me that day. And again, I lost a wonderful job in the space of about an hour because
Steve,
of my big mouth.
when did things start to go south with Mem? I mean, because I know you said you had to write, you did write in glowing terms in Expat Days, but the contrast from leaving Thailand, your book Leaving Thailand, is just immense. But so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out the timeline here. When did you went back to the States? 1997. Did it start going bad around that time?
No, it was bad from day one. We never loved each other, and I think that was the problem. We got married because it looked good on paper. We were both public relations managers in the hotel industry, so we were seeing each other all the time at events. When you're a public relations manager and you're having a marketing event, a media event, you invite all the other public relations managers on the island to fill the room. And they'll come because they want to see what you're doing. They want to steal ideas, right? So we were going to all the same ribbon cuttings and guest chefs and all these kinds of PR events, art gallery openings, chamber music series at all the various hotels on the beaches. We were seeing each other all the time. And we met through the Gibbon Rehabilitation Project. And that's a whole long story. We ended up sleeping together, and that was great. Like I said, she was great to look at. She was always very pretty. And I really didn't see her except when we were like in bed. And through a weird series of events, I asked her to marry me without intending to ask her to marry me. And she said yes. And
How did you do that without intending?
So I used to practice my Thai by repeating what I saw on the TV. And I watched TV all the time. And I would repeat everything I saw under my breath. So one night we're laying in bed and we're watching TV, and this commercial comes on for Jotun Paints. And it's a cute setup. It's young man, young woman. They get married. They buy a house. They paint that house with Jotun paints or Jotun paints. And they grow old. They get married. They have children. Their children grow up. They get gray hair makeup. They get line makeup on their face, and they're left old and retired in front of the house, and it's still bright and beautiful with that first coat of Jotun paint. Cute setup. Well, it begins with the young man saying to his girl, "Darling, will you marry me?" So under my breath, we're laying there in bed, and I thought she was asleep. I said under my breath, "Darling, will you marry me?" And she went, "Yes, yes, yes, I will, I will, I will." And I had recently been dumped by the love of my life, an event which has scarred me for life.
Oh, we've covered that
and
one.
I thought, and I had been told at work that I would rise no farther in the organization. I was working for a great-grandson of King Rama IV, and working around a lot of nobility and wealthy people. And I was told, "Steve, as long as you're a single 36-year-old man, you're not going to rise up. They're going to think you're Falang Kikai. They're going to think there's some reason you can't hook up with a woman and get married and have kids like any Thai man would do. So if you want to, rise in the organization, you need to be married." And so here was this woman, college educated from a very well-to-do family, spoke English beautifully, was presentable in any company, was famous on the island. Her Rolodex had 400 business cards in it. She was well known. She was in the newspapers, the social pages, every week. She looked like a real good match. It looked like a good match. And it turned out she wanted to marry me because she was a lesbian and her family was giving her shit that she wasn't married and producing grandchildren. So she wanted a beard. She wanted to marry somebody, and she knew no Thai guy was going to take her shit. So she wanted a Falang, and here was Steve. So we both had all of these very logical, reasonable reasons to get married, but love was not one of the reasons. And who knew? It turns out you need love to make a marriage work. Who knew?
How'd you know she was a lesbian?
Oh, I didn't find out until 2003. I came home from work one day. Well, I had had my suspicions, but I came home from work one day, 2003, and the house was stripped to the walls. She had left with my children and every stick of furniture, every pot and pan, the window treatments, the carpets. She unscrewed the light bulbs from the ceiling fixtures and took those. She took everything except our marriage bed and my clothes. And the only reason she didn't take the marriage bed is because it was a king size bed and we had to take the windows out of the bedroom to get it in the room. And she couldn't do that in one day. So she left me a bed. So I looked for 10 days. This was September 1st, 2001. I looked for her for 10 days. I contacted the State Department because I thought she'd take the kids back to Thailand. State Department said, those kids are Thai. They're on Thai passports. Nothing we can do about it. She wants to take them back to Thailand. She can. 10 days I looked for her. Finally found her on September 10th. Tried to kick in her door and discovered that she had moved into a trailer out by the airport with a female sergeant in the Iowa National Guard. So that was September 10th. September 11th, I was on the phone trying to hire a divorce lawyer, and none of the divorce lawyers in the yellow pages was answering their phones at 9 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't figure out why on September 11th, 2001, nobody was answering their phones at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's how focused on myself I was, right? Had no idea until later that day. So so she told her lawyer she intended to marry this woman and raise my children with this woman.
And what did you say?
Well, it ended up being a 15-month battle. Her lawyer said, don't mention the sergeant in court. This is Iowa. Half the judges are Lutherans. Don't mention you're a lesbian. Don't mention that. So she didn't. She kept that out of the divorce. She said that instead, she said in legal documents that she swore to and were notarized and are freely available to anybody who wants to go to the Johnson County Courthouse and pay 5 cents for a copy. She swore that I brought her to Thailand to be my sex slave and that I terribly abused her, that I was emotionally and physically cruel to her and to the children. And they believed her and they didn't believe me. And it was during that time that I got in an argument with $1 million client, made her cry, and got fired from my job. And I spent the next 4 years virtually housebound. I was afraid to open my mouth. I was afraid to speak to strangers, literally afraid. So I couldn't go to job interviews. I was having panic attacks in job interviews. So I ended up getting a job typing medical transcription from my living room. And I spent the next 4 years living in my pajamas in my living room. I had a big beard. I had long hair down to my elbows, usually food in my beard. I was living in 3-day-old dirty pajamas. I was a wreck. I mean, it kicked the shit out of me. Those events just absolutely.
How did you come out the other end?
Well, therapy played a role, psychotherapy. I had a couple good therapists and 3 or 4 really shitty ones. Simply time going by. You know, I was housebound 2003 to 2007. In 2007, I was offered a job teaching medical transcription at a vocational technical college on the island of Trinidad in the Caribbean. It was $7,000 a month for 10 months, 4 hours a day of teaching, 4 days a week, tax-free, paid into an offshore account. I couldn't turn it down. I was deep in debt. That divorce left me in debt almost up to the day I left, the day I retired when I was 65. I was still paying lawyers' bills, and I never managed to pay them off. My mother loaned me $20,000 to pay the lawyer. I've never been able to pay my mother that. But at any rate, I was offered this job. I had to take it. So I got a lot of Ambien and Valium and went down to the island of Trinidad and walked into a room full of Caribbean teenagers who kind of took me by the collar and said, "No, man, there's no depression in the Caribbean, man." And they would drag me to parties and shit. And they kind of beat the social anxiety out of me. They had no concept for social anxiety. They literally, there's probably two psychiatrists on the island of Trinidad, but the people, my students and the other faculty, they didn't have any concept of social anxiety. They couldn't imagine not being able to speak to strangers. And so over the course of that 10 months, I became more comfortable being out of my house. And when I went home, I immediately went back into my living room, got another job online, transcribing medical dictation. And I did it for about a year. And the whole year I was thinking, what am I doing? How could I have lived this way for 4 years? This is ridiculous. So after a year, I went to the Veterans Administration and I got a job transcribing medical dictation in the Veterans Administration. I ended up working for the VA for 6 years and for the U.S. Army for 9 years. Yeah, I was forced out of my shell. I think if I had not been offered that job in Trinidad, I'd still be sitting in my living room in dirty pajamas with food in my beard, listening to doctors describe death, doom, disease, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
And did Mem marry the lesbian?
No, the lesbian got sent to Iraq for a year and came home hating brown people.
Wow.
Mm.
So, I mean, what happened?
So I was told. I haven't spoken to either of them, since 2003. Well, I spoke to my ex-wife at my daughter's high school graduation, which would have been 13, 14 years ago, I think. That's the last time I ever spoke to her. And I never spoke to her about the sergeant. So, yeah, I don't know. But I heard things, you hear things. Iowa City is a small enough town that absolutely, we were the talk of every PTA meeting at the kids' elementary school. Everybody for years was happy to talk about the problems in Steve and Mem's marriage. Yeah. And they'd talk about it with me and tell me shit.
I mean, how old is she now?
Oh, God. I don't know. 50s? Let's see. We married, I was 35 and she was 29. So she was 6 years younger than me.
And you're 68, so she's 62?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, and she's still in the States.
Oh, yeah. She's a ward of the state of Iowa. She is supported by the state of Iowa. She's very sick. She had cancer and has an inoperable brain tumor and can't work. She's disabled. And because she worked for 20 years in Iowa, she has benefits. The state supports her. I don't know who's signing her green card now. I'm not. But she is able to stay there. There's nothing waiting for her here. She hasn't seen her family in almost 30 years, and they didn't like her when she lived here. And she can't work. She has no money, no savings, no property. And so the state of Iowa supports her. As far as I know, again, I haven't spoken to the woman, since 2000 and whatever, 14.
But she obviously knows
so
through your kids that you're in Thailand.
Well, yeah, I would suppose. Yeah.
Do you reckon she watches your old videos on YouTube?
Oh, I don't think the state of Iowa pays for internet. I don't think she has internet. I don't think she
Okay.
Honest to God. Yeah, I don't. But I don't think, I think she still hates me and she's not interested in what I'm doing. And the idea that I've been happy for 3 years on Turtle Beach, I think would make her very, very angry.
All right, let's get back into Expat Days. There was a story in it, Arnie from Norway. 2 years before you met him, he had only slept alone 5 nights and never with the same woman twice. And now he's getting married. When you meet him, he's getting married to a very traditional Thai woman who you describe as pure as a driven snow. Every time he's meeting her. Every time he goes to meet her, she's with a chaperone, and he's not getting any action. Remember that guy?
Yeah. Yeah. It's called The Sailor Takes a Wife.
Yeah. Whatever
Yeah.
happened to him? Can you just explain that story and tell us, elaborate on that
Oh,
story? It was an interesting one.
well, he was a guy. He lived in the barracks, the bungalow complex I lived in for a fair period of time, and all of that you say. He had a job. He worked for a tour agency back when it was much easier for Falang to lead tours, and he was Norwegian, right? So, like any Scandinavian, he spoke 138 languages, and so he would lead these tours, and they gave him a stipend for living, the company that included a little money for companionship. So it was free. Bar girls were free for him. So he took well advantage of that. But like everybody, eventually got bored with that. He met this good girl. He wanted to marry her, but she was very, very good, and she wouldn't give him sex until marriage. And she kept asking him, Arnie, you go with woman? You go with woman? And he'd say, no, no. But after a few months, so he went with a gatoy. He went with a bar girl. I mean, a
Ladyboy.
transvestite. Ladyboy, thank you. So that he could continue to say, no, I no go with woman, right? Splitting hairs. And eventually he ended up marrying the gatoy.
What?
And last time I saw him, he was very, very happy. Now, this was a guy, I had moved out of the barracks, but he and I were on the same 3-month schedule of visa runs to Penang, Malaysia, every 3 months. We would go down virtually the same day, because the flights, I think, only went every other day. And you would try to wait till the end of the 3 months, right? You didn't want to lose any days. So either I would meet him in the departures hall, the arrivals hall, or on the plane. And the last time I met him, he told me how it all washed out, how he had married the transvestite. And I think that was probably the last time I met him. And it was, God, probably 3 or 4 years later that I ever wrote about him.
It was a very interesting story. So he went on to marry the ladyboy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
As far as I remember, this is 30 years ago, dude. But as far as I haven't read the book in 10 years, 15 years, I don't know.
Well,
I'm thinking of reading my books into the video machine and creating a new YouTube channel and read all the stories from all these books.
well, you should. I mean, you don't need to create a new one. Just put it on the old one. Tell them on the old one.
Yeah, maybe.
But then you can't sell them.
That's all right. I've been selling them for 30 years. I've been making money off these stories. I still sell about a book every 3 days on Amazon. I get $1 a book. But again, these are stories I wrote 30 years ago. And I sold each one back then before the internet.
Yeah,
You
but
could
what
sell a
what I
story.
like about them, it's like a time machine. You go back to the Thailand that I never experienced, but it's still relevant to people reading it today. I mean, it hasn't Thailand. I mean, some of the stories are very, very relevant. But what I'm interested in is the cover. Why did you go for a cover of like a fat blonde haired guy like oogling a Thai woman, a Thai bar girl
Yeah.
on a beach in Phuket?
I had no say over that. I never knew what the cover was until the box of my free complimentary 20 copies from the publisher arrived at my house in Iowa. It had been on, it takes a month for a box of paper to go from Thailand to Iowa at the discount price. And so it had been on the shelves for sale for a month before I ever saw the cover. And in those days, it was sold at the airport, in the bookstore at the airport, and DK Books and Kunik, what is it? Kunaya.
Kinokuniya.
Yeah, that one. It was a legacy publishing house. It was printed on paper and sold the old-fashioned way. And he had an in-house Thai artist. And I guess he told the Thai artist, this is a book of short stories or a book of essays by a Farang who lives on Phuket. And that's what the Thai artist's impression was. And the new edition, which is for Kindle, I designed the cover. And I designed all the covers of the current editions on, well, no, David Squires did the cover for Leaving Thailand. But yeah, it's a stupid cover and I've hated it since 2006. But there was nothing I could do about it. And I was getting back then $3 a book. And so, yeah, I lived with it.
How many copies of all the books do you reckon you've sold over the years?
Oh, not many. He printed 2,000 copies. In 2006, he printed 2,000 copies of each of those books. About 4 years later, he contacted me and said, we're going completely to e-publishing. We're going to stop paying the rent on our warehouse where we store all our books. And we're going to remainder all the print books in our catalog. And I've got 300 copies of each of your books. Do you want to buy them from me? And I thought, well, I can't buy them from him, and I certainly can't pay to ship all that paper to Iowa. So I told him, no, go ahead and remainder them. So he sold 1,700 copies of each of that first edition. Oh, and then John McGee at the Phuket Gazette bought 100 copies of each of the remainders to give away as gifts to new advertisers in the newspaper. He would have a basket of like cashew nuts and faux pearl jewelry and whatever Phuket was famous for. And he could get cheap, and he would make a gift basket of these things to give new advertisers. And my books were in that basket. So technically speaking, I think he bought those just as a favor to Steve, for which I am eternally grateful. But technically speaking, 1,700 copies of each of those. So then in about, so that would have been about 2009, 2010. In about 2015 or 16, I then started putting books on Amazon. And like I said, for a long time, I was getting a book. I was selling a book a day at $1 a book, and now about a book every 3 days. When I launched my YouTube channel, I went back up to a book a day. So I don't know how to do that math, but I would reckon maybe 6,000 copies in total of all of my books. But read as newspaper columns, The Nation used to have a circulation of 100,000 copies a day. If even only 10% of the people who got a copy of the newspaper read my column on a Sunday, that's 10,000 readers every week, which is more than my YouTube channel ever got for audiences, more than my books ever got. So as newspaper columns and columns in in-flight magazines and Australian newspaper syndicates, I was selling columns in Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, Manila, Tokyo, and Honolulu, all up and down the Pacific Rim. That audience was massive, I think, for a guy with my skills and resume. Much, much bigger in the 90s. I was much more widely read in the 90s. And when I left Thailand, there was a new editor at The Nation. And I talked to her right before I left. And she said, wait, you're Steve Ross. She said, we have a whole box of fan mail or hate mail, we don't know, down in the mailroom because you don't have an office here. And nobody in the mailroom knows who Steve Ross is because they don't read the newspaper. They're Thai, they're clerical help. They don't read the newspaper. And they don't know who Steve Ross is. We have a whole box of mail for you down in the basement. Do you want me to mail it to you? And I said, again, another box of paper. I said, no, throw it away. So I was getting a lot of, I was being read a lot back in the 90s, much, much more than now or anytime since. People don't read. Pete, I think it's very brave of you to interview an author on your channel. I think the word book in a title of a YouTube video these days is poison. I will be very surprised if this gets, I'm very surprised and flattered and happy if this gets many views. But I think these days saying you're interviewing an author, everybody goes, meh, interview an influencer. Interview that guy who rants on YouTube. Yeah,
Dave Keegan.
I'm not naming any name. I rant.
Okay,
all right,
we skip past that one. I've gotten I've gotten enough heat already for talking about Dave Keegan. I better not mention him anymore. Um, or will I? I am okay. So Steve, I mean, look, you, I said it to you 6 months ago, man, or 7 months ago. Like, don't quit YouTube, man. Like, this is your perfect. You're a great talker. Here I am again, trying to say, don't keep making videos, but I don't know if it's falling on deaf ears.
No, 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 no. And you're part of a chorus. There's a fair number of people who are encouraging me to do that. And I may, like I said, so indulge me. Let me put some backstory on this. My friend Matty, I have a friend, I've met him once. He took me out on Nana Plaza and showed me a good time on Nana Plaza. He's an American guy who survived cancer and got disability payments and said, fuck it, I'm going to Thailand. And he did. And he lives in Pattaya and he does that whole monger lifestyle and he's happy as a clam. It's the exact opposite of what I do, but he's a happy man. And he said recently, Steve, I want to read your books, but my eyes are shut for a variety of reasons. I can't read, but I've got this program which will read for me with an AI voice. Which of your books should I start with? And I said, please, please, please don't let that robot read my words. Let me make an audiobook for you, Maddie. Let me record these books for you. And I'll put them on YouTube and you can listen to them like podcasts on YouTube. And he said, okay. So I started investigating how to set up an air-conditioned studio in my bedroom and staple egg crates to the walls and buy a mic. And it's just way over my head. But in the past, I have read my stories on my channel. There's probably half a dozen of my stories that I dramatized with sets and little mannequins, and then another half dozen that I just read like this into the phone. And I'm thinking I'll just do that. I'll just put the phone down here with a cup of coffee and a cigarette and one of the books and read from the book and do. They take about 5 minutes to read, maybe do 2 stories each time, 10 minutes, and put those each week on the channel. Yeah, and I think I'm going to do that. First, I have to get copies of the books. I don't own any copies of my books. I didn't bother to carry copies of my books from Iowa or New Mexico. I had a few copies that people have brought to me or that I found in the used bookstore in Phuket, but I sent the last 2 to you. So I don't have any copies of my books now. I don't have them on digital. I don't have the PDFs anymore.
Wow, so I have the last 2 copies.
Yeah, well, that I had. I'm going to ask, tomorrow we'll shoot a Grumpy Old Man, and I will ask the fans of that show to go to the local bookstore. You can still find the paper copies in the 2 used bookstores that still exist in Thailand. And I'm going to see if people can find my books and mail them to me. And I will begin to read these stories. And so, yeah, I do appreciate your encouragement very much. You know, my channel, between you and Roy Bott, my channel only exists because of you two guys. I would not have done that otherwise. So I appreciate your kind words, and I take that they're not deaf ears. I take them seriously.
Okay, well, we'll move on, but you know my feeling on it anyway. Steve,
You should come back to Thailand, by the way.
I will. I do plan to. I have. Listen, I have. Everyone has their
Please.
own strategy. I will. I will.
No,
I
sure.
will. I will. But it takes.
Okay.
You know, it takes. I will definitely go back there. But I have a financial goal I want to hit. I want to make sure that I don't have to. I'm not going to be broke in Thailand. You know what I mean? I want to hit goals here. I've got goals to achieve.
All right. Well, I got that covered. You don't need to be broke in Thailand. I'm taking care of that. Yeah.
Well, that kind of leans into my next question. So, with on Tim Ross's, Tim Newton's channel, the other day you said your pension is in jeopardy. What's going on?
If you believe the American media, everything is in jeopardy, right? They call Social Security benefits entitlements. And people don't say directly, we want to take away Steve's pension. They say, we're going to look real hard at entitlements. And we may add a work requirement that you have to work to be eligible for entitlements. And probably they're talking about welfare, about food stamps, about the WIC program, things for seriously poor people, which me and my family, I fed my kids on food stamps when they were very little. Like I said, I went back to the States with nothing, 40 years old, no job prospects, no savings, no property. And yeah, we went down to the food center and got 2 free bags of groceries every week when we first got there. So those things are all under threat from Doge and other wealthy people. And we're not going to get into politics here, but it is, my mother has been receiving her benefits since 1996, and there was never a question that they would end before she died. She was alive when Social Security was created, I think. 33. She was born in 33. I'm sure someone in the comment section will correct me on this. But at any rate, my mother's whole life, she worked and paid into the system with the absolute rock hard assurance that the government would pay her back. And they have since 1996, without question, without doubt. I worked under the same supposition. I sat in that cubicle and thought, I'm sitting here so that when I'm 65, I can go back to a beach in South Thailand and live the rest of my life on Social Security, which I expected to be exactly 1 year. But it has turned out to be 3 years, and I'm very happy for that. And, God willing, I will live a few more years. But right now, everything is up in the air in the United States, as far as I can tell from here. And there's no guarantees anymore. Even if I do get Social Security benefits for the rest of my life, I would not bet a nickel that my son and daughter will be able to work with that same confidence. They're paying into the system. Everybody is in America. You don't have a choice. The money's taken out of your check before you ever see it. But I don't think there'll be anything there for my children. I think they'll just get screwed by the government. And I may too. And everybody who's in the same boat I am, which is many millions of voters, which is why we've always been confident that no lawmaker would ever touch Social Security, because how many millions of voters are getting Social Security benefits? Now that does not seem to be a problem. Now they don't seem to care how many voters are getting Social Security benefits. So it's all a big question right now. A question enough that it doesn't keep me awake at night, but I'm conscious of what I spend and how I spend. I used to have a surplus 3 years ago. I wasn't spending it all. I wasn't making damn big turtles 3 years ago and spending 10,000 baht a month on a hired hand to help me lift things and cement and bathroom caulk and latex glue and acrylic glue and paint and lacquer and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these art projects, I don't sell these things. I give them away because I'm on a retirement visa. I can't be seen to be doing anything that looks like business. So I'm spending everything they send me every month, and there's nothing left over at the end of the month. So
What did you say? You were 60,000 baht? Is it
50?
50?
Yeah. Now it's 1,200 in Social Security benefits and 300 in a pension from the U.S. Army. I was a civilian employee of the United States Army for 9 years at Fort Bliss in El Paso. And in those 9 years, I earned a pension, which feeds me $300 a month, which I think goes till I'm 80. I'm not sure. But at any rate, they haven't yet talked about, because that's the same pension veterans get. And they haven't talked about taking veterans' pensions away yet. So 300 of it is perhaps relatively safe, but 1,200 of it is up in the air at the moment, like everything else.
Worst case scenario, if they did make a cut to the pension, maybe they might take some of it, not all of it. What are you going to do then? Would you go back to the
Yeah.
States?
I'm open to, oh, fuck no. I'm open to suggestions. I would like to go back to the States this fall. I would like to see my mother again. I don't want her to travel here again. She came here last year. She's 92. It was hard on her, and I don't want her to go through that again. I would like to go back in the fall and see the trees change color, watch a football game, college football. I don't know if I'll be able to afford that. The ticket's $1,200. That's a month of Social Security. But as far as going back to live, I can't. If I can't live here on $300 a month, I'm certainly not going to be able to live in Iowa City on $300 a month. I'd be sleeping on my mother's sofa and having her feed me. I don't want to do that. I mean,
okay, I'm going to just probe a little bit. What about, down the line, would you have inheritance coming?
No.
Okay.
No. My mother has some money, but that's in a trust fund with my kids' names on it. It doesn't have my name on it, and I don't want it. I'm 68 years old. I don't like living off my mother's charity. The only thing I've come up with is there's 2 universities right down the road from here. I could walk to them from here. If I have to go teach English, I'll go teach English. I'll get a work permit and teach English. I think it's a very small town. I think I could walk into the university here. I have experience teaching in Thailand. I am relatively fluent in Thai, and I live on the same street as the university. I think I could probably get a couple $100 an hour teaching English for 2-3 hours a day. If I stop making turtles and I fire my hired man and I stop renting my motorcycle, I've been renting a motorcycle for 3,000 baht a month for 3 years.
Steve.
I could have bought a brand new motorcycle. But remember, I didn't expect to live more than a year. So when I started this arrangement, I thought it'd be for a year. And also, I don't know anything about motors. I'm not a motorhead. And the guy I rented from, Hans, he's a good friend, and he takes care of the bike really well. And it's been a good arrangement. I don't want to put my name on papers. I don't want to have to go get a tabian for this thing. I don't want Chamnan to have to deal with it after I die. It has been very convenient and pleasant to simply let this relationship roll along. And yeah, now I'm looking at, 3,000 baht a month for 3 years and looking at what the price tags are on new motorcycles. And I'm thinking maybe go that way. But if the shit hit the fan and they took away my benefits, I'd simply let go of the motorcycle and walk anywhere I need to go, or ride my little electric trike, which I paid for in cash and I still have it. I will try, God forbid, knock on wood, should the shit hit the fan, which it may, right? Nothing's guaranteed. That's the best I've been able to come up with.
Okay. Let me just ask another one. So you mentioned your
That's
mother.
going to generate 100 comments. That's what I just said. How could you be so irresponsible? You're giving Olas Farang a bad name. Go home. You'll never make it here. You're going to join the Pattaya Flying Club in 6 months. I guarantee you 100 comments from shitheads.
Well, your situation, you could understand why some people in your situation, it's you do hear about these stories. Guys losing their pension, they run out of money, and all of a sudden they're 60, 70 years old, and they don't want to face the reality of the situation they're in. They don't want to go back to their home country, so they end up jumping off the hotel balcony or whatever.
If I was going to jump off a balcony, I would have done it in 2003. That was the nadir. That was the lowest point in my life. I'm not going to jump off a balcony here. There's no balconies. There's no buildings over 1 story tall.
You could still jump off one of those, Steve. Just land in the right way, you break your neck.
Or this time of year, just walk 10 feet into the surf. You're gone, dude. But no, I'm not going to kill myself. I think I could scrape together. There's a guy here I like very much. He's a Dutch guy. He's been on this beach 40 years. He was on Phuket for 10 years and then on Turtle Beach for 40 years. And he pays 1,000 baht a month in rent for a little 1-room bungalow. and he scavenges off the beach. He's a beachcomber. He sells what he finds on the beach, rope and timber and hardware that he finds off the beach. And he's happy. Guy's happy.
Single guy.
So, I mean, huh?
Single.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So am I. 50,000 baht a month. That is not enough for two people. No. There's no, first of all, there's no woman who's going to live in an art studio. This is not a home. This is an art studio. And, you know, there's cement on the floor. There's paint everywhere. There's glue. I go to bed at night with acrylic caulking in my chest hair. I mean, this is a bachelor pad. No woman would live this way, but no woman wants to live on half of 50,000 baht, or even not even half. Like I said, right now, I don't have anything left over at the end of the month. There's no money there for a woman, not even to feed a woman, let alone give her money for the family backup country.
But do you not have urges, Steve?
Yeah.
So what'd you do then?
Well, I'm 60. You really want? I mean, I don't give a shit.
Go
Marijuana and masturbation have been the two constants in my life since I was 13 years old. You know, I got Wi-Fi and I've had my prostate enucleated. What that means is that I still have the artery and the nerve that control erection and ejaculation, but I don't produce sperm. I'm dry as a bone. So that means I don't have that physical building up of pressure in the reservoirs that has to be released. So I can go, you know, a fair number of days without needing to do that. When I do it is recreational. It is not therapeutic. But yeah, all of that still works. All of it works fine. But the urge is much, much left. Listen, right now, if I had a career in the movie industry in a rent control department on Broadway, I would not give it up to move to Thailand. That urge is gone. The urge that brought me here and brought me to Kata Beach and had me give up everything in the States that I loved, that urge is no. I would not make that stupid decision again.
But you're in a country known for its beautiful women.
Yeah, this town is packed to the rafters with beautiful women, country girls. We don't have any go-go's. We don't have any bars. Half the voters in this Ampur are Muslim. There's no go-go. There's no bar beers. There's nothing. We have two little karaoke joints for the Thai guys. But of course, Thai guys don't do that in their village. Our guys go over to Kokloi, 15 minutes away, to get their knobs polished. And the boys from Kokloi come over here. But we have those little, you know, Thai places with the Christmas tree lights outside. I was told a blowjob's 200 baht. But that I did that kind of thing 30 years ago. It was sordid and dirty and unappealing 30 years ago. It certainly is now. I don't want to go, you know, stand up in a back room while a woman kneels at my feet and unzips my fly. And I mean, I want a nice air-conditioned room with a hot tub full of hot water and one of those inflatable mats on the floor.
But you can get that as well, Steve.
Huh?
That's available too.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, I was going once a month. When my benefits came, I would go down to Phuket for 3 nights, and I would do that. And I'll tell you what, the scene has changed so much. 30 years ago, it was all quaint and charming, and the girls were all playing the long game. They wanted you to marry them and take them abroad, so they would wash your socks before they left in the morning. Now, it's all very hard and mercenary and uncharming and unquaint and very unappealing. And the amount of tattoos, my God, it's like screwing a comic book. It's not for me, man. That shit's not for me. But there are plenty of little country girls here. You know, it's a fairly poor village. My 50,000 baht a month, there's not a soul within a mile of my house who wouldn't give his eye teeth for 50,000 baht a month without having to work for it. Christ, they're jealous of me. They all think I'm rich as Croesus, these people. So there are little country girls here who might be willing. I mean, when I first came, everybody was bringing over their daughter-in-law and saying, she needs a job. You need a housekeeper. Isn't she pretty? And they've stopped doing that. They understand now there's no money for that. But, you know, I don't know. What do you, another 20,000 baht a month? And yeah, I could have a real nice paid companion from the local community. Not a working girl, not a bar girl, a girlfriend, right?
Yeah, you can do that with your YouTube channel. That's the extra 20K. 20K.
Oh no, I was making $100 a month off the YouTube.
Right
$100
now.
a month.
Right now.
No, now nothing. Now they've closed my Google AdSense account because I haven't touched it for a year. So they've closed my AdSense account. So no, I'm not making anything now. I don't get anything from Tim Newton's channel, and I'm fine with that. I don't need any more money. I mean, I know you've spent 15 minutes trying to convince me to pay someone to suck my dick. I don't know why, but no, I'm happy this way. It's working.
Your mother, she's 92, you said. So you have
Light another cigarette. My mother.
you're not, you have good genetics, even though you're sitting there smoking. Your mother's 92. It's there. Longevity's in the family. It's in the genes.
Well, that side, yeah, not my father's side at all.
Well, you don't know what side. I mean, here you are. You know, you're still. I mean, you know, you have had health problems. But
oh yeah.
Let me just play devil's advocate here a little bit. What if, you know, you do live to be 90 or you get into your 80s and you're single? Would that concern you then? You know, you don't really have anyone around you to help you.
To be single at 90?
Yeah, in Thailand, alone.
Well, Chamnan comes twice a day, make sure I haven't fallen down and broken a hip. He will continue to come twice a day as long as I give him a little money every week, I hope. And we like each other. It's a transactional relationship, but I think I would call him a friend. I hope he would call me a friend. But he still calls me Kun Steve, and I still call him Kun Chamnan. I'm not paid yet. But no, first of all, I think if Steve lives to 90, fuck, alert the media. I think that's the chances of that happening are extremely slim. I've had 2 heart attacks. I have 7 stents in my coronary arteries. I did quit smoking for a month and then celebrated that achievement by buying a pack of cigarettes. So no, any insurance actuarial will tell you that Steve will die in his 3rd heart attack, and it will be soon, and it will be brief and extremely painful. But that's how it's going to happen, at least as far as the odds go. And so I don't think being alone at 90 is likely to happen. So here you are again, trying to get me hooked up. You have a woman in mind? Are you you got an unmarried sister?
You wouldn't be interested in an Irish woman?
I'm not.
An Irish Catholic woman?
I'll tell you what, red hair is extremely exciting. Yeah, and the accent, Pete, the accent in a woman is extremely exciting. That and the Southern American accent. I was engaged to a woman in Memphis, Tennessee, just because of her accent. But at any rate, no, let's talk about something else. That's
okay. All right. I'm going to get controversial here. Dr. Mark Sabian calls you a failed, washed-up writer, drug addict, a fat little fuck, and then threatens you by saying, "Stop talking about me, or I can promise you, you will not be living your best life." Why did you give him a pass on that, Steve?
Did you memorize that speech?
I wrote it down. I made notes there right in front of me.
Teleprompter. Mark will be pleased that his words are on a teleprompter. No, I don't. I accused Mark of wearing a Yankees hat without earning the right. Turns out he had a very successful baseball memorabilia company, and he's got thousands of cards, collector's cards and hats, and he has every right. And he rooted for the Yankees. He's got every right to wear that hat. I was just dead wrong on that. And I misinterpreted a video he made that was a joke, and I didn't see the humor in it and thought he was being serious. And I criticized him for that. Now, yeah, I'm a drug addict. Look at that. I've had 6 cigarettes since we've been talking. And marijuana, I smoke broccoli. I smoke every day. Sorry, YouTube. I take 3 different heart medications that if I skip a day, I feel it. So yeah, I'm a drug addict. I am fat. I'm not little. many people have called me a fuck before and a prick and a shithead. So he wasn't wrong on a lot of that. Failed writer, hell yeah. I told you the whole story of my graduate school experience as a writer. He wasn't wrong. His tone of voice was brusque and a little threatening, but I think that was chasing views, you know, and we are now on great terms. I mean, we talk to each other via email, and he talked about a collab, but I won't go to Phuket for love or money. I hope you can hear me. It's raining because it's Panga and it rains this time of year. But yeah, no, I got no beef with Mark. You know, I piss people off even when I don't intend to. I didn't mean to piss off Pat, Bangkok Pat, but he was angry at me for a while and said a few angry things. Then he came down to Phuket. I met him. We had a meal together. Him and Carl from Thailand. Carl in Thailand. And now we're on great terms. This tends to happen. Steve, people either love me to death and then come to despise me, or they despise me on first meeting and then come to like me. And so, you know, that's the way it was with Mark Sabian.
What do you think of the other? You don't have to name specific names. You can talk generally. I'm not going to push on a name, but what do you think of you're in the Thailand vloggers Facebook group. I watch the content from there as well. And there's Roy likes to post kind of the same channels. You know, he has new channels coming in all the time, but there's certain channels that feature a lot. There's one channel, and every time this person gets posted on the Facebook, it generates a lot of comments and mostly negative. And there's a lot of ranting going on. Let me just say that. What's your opinion on these YouTubers that are? It's like they don't fit in with Thai culture at all. They've never adapted to any level of Thai culture, and they're very set in their Western ways. And all they do is rant and rave about how bad Thailand is, complain about it. What's your opinions on? I know I was a leading question here, but what's your opinions on it?
No, it's a perfectly valid question. It's the medium we're employing right now. We are two Thailand vloggers. And yes, I don't watch as much now because my two complaints with the genre is A, it's all been said before, and people are just repeating themselves, and they're repeating what they saw this guy talk about last week. And you know, how many times can you walk through the M-Sphere Mall? How many times can you watch some guy just carry his phone down a random street, or put a GoPro on his forehead and drive his little motorcycle down 20 clicks of random road? None of these guys is camera ready. None of them will put on a clean shirt to do their thing. None of them will, you know, sit in flattering light or have a backdrop. It's all very amateur, rank, ham-fisted stuff. And a lot of the confrontational stuff, the rant, is chasing views. And there's other things. The buying of subscribers. There was a guy drove me nuts, and I'm sure he's a sweetheart. I'm sure he's a real nice guy. But I'm sitting out here in front of my house, and I've talked about this before, and I hope he's not. Don't be upset, dude, if you're watching this. Yeah, but I'm sitting in front of my house on Songkran morning in my floral shirt, my luau shirt, with my squirt gun and my big tub of cold water, and Chamnan and I are there, and Chamnan's all excited because he loves to make young women's t-shirts wet, and he's absolutely shameless.
Don't we all, Steve?
And he puts the naughty boy, and he puts the powder on their face, and maybe his hand slips a little bit and cops a little feel. Chamnan just digs the shit out of it. Who doesn't love Songkran morning in the water? And it all happens right in front of my house in this village. The beach road is where everybody comes to throw water. They don't throw water in their own neighborhoods. They don't throw water downtown. They all come to in front of my house, and all day long they're throwing water and driving pickups up and down the street and playing music. And it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous day. So I'm sitting in front of my house. And okay, it's 9 a.m, but it's Songkran. So I gave myself a fiat and I blazed up. So I'm just happy, man. I'm sitting there just lush and happy with my squirt gun. And this Falang guy comes up to me with his phone out and running and says, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'd like to interview you, Steve. Is that all right? Would you show up at someone's house at their New Year's Eve party and walk in their house with your camera running on New Year's Eve and walk up to them in the middle of the party and say, 'Hi, I'm here to interview you,' with no email to introduce you?" No. And so I tried to indulge him, and we did a little back and forth. And I said, "What are some of your favorite books about Thailand?" Unknown stranger. He said, "Oh, I've never read any books about Thailand." Well, you want to piss Steve off, tell him you've never read any books, including his. Just say, "Yeah, I like your book, Steve." That's all you have to say. I won't press you. I won't ask you details about the books. I will be very happy to take that compliment, whether it's true or not, right? "No, I've never read any books about Thailand." Well, so I got rude, I think, at that point, and kind of shooed him away. And he was very disappointed, and he never posted the interview. But I look on his channel, the guy's got 120,000 subscribers. He gets 60 views. Okay, what's that tell us?
Yeah, he's paying for subscribers.
You think? That kind of shit, that's immoral. That goes beyond ethics. That's morality. And you see a lot of that. You see a lot of people in our genre who've got 100,000 subscribers and they got a couple hundred views. And that buying of subscribers, I think, is heinous. I don't cotton to that. So that's something in our genre that I very dislike. So I have stopped watching a lot of YouTube content. I like Walker, if you know Walker, Walk 4R. I like his stuff. I like Bangkok Pat. I don't have any interest in Bangkok, which is all he talks about, thus the name. But he's the best at what he does. The guy is absolutely immaculate in his production, his research, his delivery, his feeding of stray cats. Everything about his presentations is admirable. It's not my cup of tea, and sometimes I'll kind of skim. But I admire the guy's work ethic. I admire his product. Carl in Thailand does things I would never dream of. He rappels down mountains. He climbs mountains. I would never dream. He goes in caves. Fuck that. I admire that. And, people like that who put the effort in. I admire work, even if, George Bowman, I love his stuff. It's very raw and it's very, very George. I like personal stuff. I like very unique, idiosyncratic stuff. And George's stuff is very identifiable. Doesn't look like anybody else's stuff. And I like a few contributors to the genre, but a lot of it is repetitious. A lot of it is ham-fisted and clumsy. A lot of it is lazy, and like you say, a lot of it is just clickbait. The ranting and raving and throwing rocks at other YouTubers. And like you say, there's a precious little bit of actual insight into life in Thailand. A lot of these guys, and look, I'm not knocking the lifestyle. If you want to live in a condo in a Farang ghetto and eat out of 7-Eleven, you rock on, dude. Like I said, Maddie does all that shit. Maddie's a hell of a nice guy. But Maddie doesn't make YouTube videos where he claims to tell you the way it is in Thailand from his 30th floor condo. No, man, get out in the fucking boonies, go live in a hut in a fucking rice field, learn a little Thai and then use your Thai in a way that doesn't look like you're showing off that you speak Thai, of which I am probably guilty.
Remember there 6-7 months ago, we did the interview about the guy you got into that fist fight with that guy. I can't remember. Oh, he's an American. He's another American guy. Do you still see this guy around?
Sure. It's a very small village, dude. He lives 2 blocks that way. Yeah, he drives past my house all the time. This is a cul-de-sac. There's only one way in and off this beach. It's a dead end. He has to drive by my house to go anywhere. So yeah, I see him on the road. Uh, Sometimes he's friendly, sometimes he shouts shit. He was up at the gas station and I pulled into the pump next to him, and he had this beautiful husky dog in his truck. And I hadn't seen him with a dog before. And I just shouted over from my pump to his pump, "That's a beautiful dog." And his eyes lit up and he started telling me about the dog. And then he had to talk to the girl, and I drove off, and that was our last encounter. Last time we've spoken to each other. But I see him probably every 2-3 days. I see him on the road. Sometimes we make eye contact, sometimes we don't.
Did you not shake hands
Now,
after that fight?
no, we stood up with the restaurant staff kind of pulling us apart, and we had a few words. They were not friendly on that occasion.
But I mean, after the fight, the couple of days after, when the dust settled, did you say, "Look, man, let's forget about it"?
No, no. A couple days later, he started leaving piles of cow shit outside my front door. There's a big cow pasture. The center of this village is a huge field that sometimes they'll play football on, but most of the time they pasture cattle on this field. So there's always big wads when they're not using it for football. There'll be big piles of cow shit on this field. So a couple nights in a row, he brought cow shit, left it outside my door. I'm from Iowa. You don't know anything about Iowa, but we don't give a shit about cow shit in Iowa. They used to have boot scrapers outside my high school. The country kids, the farm kids, had to do chores in the morning before school. So they'd come to school with pig shit and cow shit on their boots. So outside every door of my high school was a metal bar, a blade, and you were expected to scrape your boots on that blade and not track cow shit into the high school. So I don't care about cow shit. I ain't afraid of cow shit. It's good for the roses. But I bought a security camera and I put it over the front door, and there's been no cow shit after that. And he did. I mean, like I said, every now and then he'll shout something rude at me on the road. No, there's been no shaking of hands, but we had a nice little conversation about his dog. That was pleasant. That was civil. So, there's only like 5 white guys in this village. So, well, actually,
this guy.
12. There's about 12, and 3 won't speak to me. 1/4, 25% of the Fang on this beach won't speak to me.
Okay, so what's the problem with the other 2 guys then?
Oh, well, one of them, he committed a social faux pas. He wanted to talk about American politics when I was sitting outside my house at 8 o'clock in the evening, high as a kite, ready to go to bed. I was just about ready to go to bed. And suddenly he's looming over my chair, shouting at me in a very loud voice about American politics. So I stood up and I shut my gate and I went in the house. And then the next morning we were recording a Grumpy Old Men, and I don't have any filter. I talk about anything. We spent 10 minutes on my sex life in this interview. I'll talk about anything. So I happened to mention this guy's social faux pas, that he came and I wasn't willing to talk to him. So I ghosted him, I think the kids say. I just got up and closed my gate, walked in the house. And I think he wasn't angry about closing the gate. I think he got very angry about me talking about him on Tim's channel. And he went to Tim's house and he asked that those 2 minutes that I mentioned him be cut out of the show, and Tim kindly cut them out of the show. And now, I mean, like I said, it's cul-de-sac to go anywhere. Everybody has to go past my house. He exercises. He's lost a ton of weight. He looks great. He moved here. He moved to a house 2 doors down from me, I don't know, 6 months ago. And he walks every day, and he's lost a ton of weight. He looks terrific. And he walks past my house, and he very pointedly does not look to his left and wave. That's his deal. And then the other guy, same thing. I talked about a friend of his on Phuket who had died, and the maid, he had left a will leaving everything he owned to his Thai maid. And his children showed up from Australia and were really pissed off about that and were fighting the maid in the courts. And I said on maybe it was my channel. I don't remember where I said it, but I said, look, this is stupid. You're never going to win in the court. She's Thai. You're Falang. What do you think you're doing? They're going to give it to her. Are you insane? You're spending money on a local lawyer to fight this. You don't have a leg to stand on. You're white, dude. And whether or not I'm correct about that, I think eventually she did win. But he got very upset that I told his friend's story on YouTube. Well, I'm a memoirist. I talk about everything on YouTube and in my books. That's what a memoirist does. The idea of when does somebody else's story become my story to tell, there are 100 graduate students right now in America writing dissertations on that very question. When does something become fair game for any author to write about it? So, or in this case, speak about it. He may have a leg to stand on, but he just decided that he was never going to speak to me again. And that's really fine because he's not a real pleasant person. He's very unpleasant to speak to in the first place. But yeah, 3 of the 12 won't speak to Steve Ross. Go figure.
You got to. Okay, if I still have more to go, Steve. 4, 5, and 6 coming up in the next couple of months. You got to hit that 100%, Steve.
I have this talent, for pissing people off. That's my superpower. That's what I do, and been that way since I was the 2nd grade. And if I couldn't change, I've lost because of my personality. I've lost plenty of jobs, and lovers, and friends, and family. I have family who don't want to speak to me. More than one member of my family, and I have a very small family because I never knew my father. I don't know anybody on my father's side of the family. My mother only had one brother, so I got 4 cousins, and they've got wives, and I've got 2 children and a mother. And that's it. That's my whole family. And 2 people out of that collection won't speak to me. So this is, if I could change, I would have changed for those people, the people who really matter to me, the people in the comment section, the 100 people who are going to throw shit at me in the comment section of this YouTube video. I don't give a shit about them. I'm not going to change for them. If I couldn't change for the people who mattered to me, for the jobs that I love, for the careers that I love, if I couldn't change to keep those careers, I ain't going to change now, So yeah, maybe I'll piss off the other 9 Farang. The one is Tim. And by now, if I have not alienated Tim Newton, by now, I think it's unlikely that I will. I think if that guy can stand everything that I have thrown at him over the last 3 years, every week, sitting down for an hour of live, well, it's not live, but he doesn't edit it much unless people come and ask him to. It's all one take like this, and he doesn't cut anything. And if I haven't said anything, what is that? That's 2 years, let's say, every week, 100 videos, 100 hours of product. If I haven't said anything to piss him off by now, probably we will stay friends. But the other guys in town, I don't know. Any moment now, I could say something that'll piss them off.
Tim is a tough cookie. I mean, he's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. I mean, I'm sure Tim has come across deadlier sharks than Steve Ross in his career.
I would bet that is the case. Tim went for 6 years to an all-boys boarding school. I would imagine that he saw violence and abuse in that environment. I don't want to make assumptions and tell his story without him being here. But I have a fairly Dickensian view of boarding schools. And I think if he could put up with the bullies and the assholes in boarding school, he can put up with this bully and this asshole. So far, he has. We get along great. I don't think Tim and I have ever had an argument, let alone a falling out. So that's 1 out of 12. That's 1 out of 12 that I've kept as a friend.
Well, Steve, I think we've covered everything. We've got all my questions out of the way. I mean, look, it's been a pleasure. I think we should do it again at Christmas. What are we, July now? I think Christmas. We'll have another video by Christmas. What do you think?
As soon as you read another book.
I have Thai vignettes here.
Yeah, read it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very different.
Okay.
There's other stuff in it. It just put it on the back of the toilet. They're all 1,000 word newspaper columns. They take 3 minutes to read. So just put it on the back of your toilet. I can't believe I am on my knees begging someone to read my book.
Put in your toilet when you're taking a dump. Just read it.
It will give you more questions. You call it research. Yeah.
Okay, I will. And I'll leave the links. So you send me the Amazon links for your books, and I'll pin them down below so anyone can anybody watching this, you know where to get Steve's books. They're in a link down below. And Steve, it's a pleasure as always.
Thank you very much. I'm always very flattered and pleased when you invite me on your channel, and I hope I gave you a few minutes of something you can use.
Absolutely. I think we're gonna use all of it, Steve. Why not?
Okay. Yeah.
All right, take
See,
care
that's
take
why
care of yourself anyway, all right? Thank you very much, Steve. See you later, bud.